Hello, and welcome to Fusion News. My name is Jeff Peachman, and I'm a PhD student at the University of Washington, and I study plasma physics. Here are the stories that I'm covering. 1. Nuclear fusion, the holy grail of power, was always 30 years away, and now it's a matter of when, not if, fusion comes online to power AI. 2. Eni strikes more than $1 billion power deal with U.S. fusion firm Commonwealth. And 3. New prediction model could improve the reliability of fusion power plants. And if you stick around for the end of the video, I also have 2 bonus stories for you. So let's get started on the main stories. 1. Nuclear fusion, the holy grail of power, was always 30 years away. Now it's a matter of when, not if, fusion comes online to power AI. So the US has invested hundreds of billions of dollars this year alone in AI. But AI requires large data centers, often called hyperscale data centers, and these will need a lot of power. That demand for energy is driving sustained investment into fusion energy from both the private sector and government. The article quotes the CEO of Commonwealth Fusion Systems, which is an FIA member company. And he said, quote, "For hyperscalers, you have a build-out of infrastructure that's very energy hungry. They need a lot of power in a concentrated way, and they need it all the time. The use case fits fusion very well." One of the biggest fusion investors is Breakthrough Energy Ventures. This is a long-term investment fund started by Bill Gates. Gates has claimed that we're on the cusp of a massive breakthrough, and it's clearer now than ever before that the future of energy is subatomic. So, if they are right, the question that this article asks is, when is fusion coming? Well, 10 years ago, the nations of the world agreed through the United Nations to a binding climate goal of net zero greenhouse gas emissions by 2050. And by that date, demand for electricity is projected to double. In the article, Ratu Matera, the CEO of OpenStar Technologies in New Zealand, said, quote, "If we're working toward 2050 climate goals and we're not beginning the process until the late 2030s of actually scaling and deploying these systems, then it's basically too late." OpenStar is an FIA member company, which is building a new type of fusion device called a levitating dipole. So there's a large variety of approaches in the industry that are trying to field devices in the 2030s. Another company, Type 1 Energy, which is another FIA member, reports a similar timescale. They're building stellarators, and they hope to have their first plant online also in the early 2030s. This plant will be located in Tennessee and should put 350 megawatts of electricity onto the power grid. If industry gets their fusion pilot plants on the grid in the next decade, they will then have to work hard to scale that technology and to scale fusion power plants in order to answer the growing global energy demand. In the article, Charles Bilkai, an investor at Jefferies, said, quote, "It took solar power 25 years to reach its first terawatt worldwide, and then it took 2 years to reach its second terawatt. Once you hit that inflection point, you start to see real gains. But the potential for fusion is much larger," he said. "Fusion is so energy dense and potent that it could become the final energy source when it's finally optimized for the grid." He says that going from wood to coal to gas, we've always increased the energy density, and fusion would be the final source of energy density. Let's move on to our second story. Eni strikes more than a $1 billion power deal with U.S. fusion firm Commonwealth. This second story is highly related to our first story. Big tech, utilities, and energy companies are rushing to secure electricity supply due to the increased demand from AI data centers. This is why the Italian energy company, Eni, which is an FIA affiliate member, has signed a deal with Commonwealth Fusion Systems to purchase over $1 billion of electricity. The electricity will be generated in the US state of Virginia for use on the local grid in the 2030s. So this is the second power purchase deal that's been made with Commonwealth in just this year. The first was made earlier this year with Google. And our final and third story. New prediction model could improve the reliability of fusion power plants. So as we all know, it's very hard to get a fusion reaction started. But what about stopping it? Well, one of the advantages of fusion is that there's no chain reaction. So if you pull the plug, the reaction stops. But it turns out that if you just pull the plug, you can hurt the machine. So it's just like your desktop computer. You should do a controlled shutdown if you want your computer to last, and it's the same story if you want your power plant to last. So this story is about shutting down safely. In a working tokamak, there's a very strong current circulating through the plasma, and that current needs to gradually ramp down while keeping the plasma stable. If the plasma becomes unstable, then the plasma will touch the walls and damage them. So scientists at MIT made a new tool that predicts plasma behavior as the current ramps down. This new tool combines a physics-based approach with an AI model. Their training data came from a tokamak in Switzerland called TCV, and the tool was then tested during new runs on the same tokamak with great success. They successfully predicted the behavior of the plasma during the tests, so their next step was to add an algorithm that then tells the tokamak what to do to keep the plasma stable. So for example, a tokamak's control system can change the magnet strength to change the shape of the plasma. You can also change the heating power. And both of these inputs can be used to change how stable that plasma is. And they found that this algorithm was also very successful. That's it for our main stories for today, but I have some bonus content for you. The first piece is a YouTube video about the Wendelstein 7X Stellarator by Megaprojects. So this is a great video to watch if you want to learn the basics of how a stellarator works and how it's built and how it differs from tokamaks. The second story is about how CERN and Fusion for Energy have signed an agreement to collaborate on technology. Now, as a reminder, CERN operates particle accelerators like the Large Hadron Collider. Their job is to discover fundamental new physics. In contrast, Fusion for Energy manages Europe's contribution to ITER, which is the large tokamak experiment being built in France. While the applications are different, there's a lot of overlap between the two technologies that they use, so the partnership should accelerate progress at both of those organizations. Well, I hope you enjoyed today's Fusion News. If you did, make sure you hit like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.